just maybe a small spark of an idea. And the idea may have come because we saw something someplace, maybe we watched something on TV. I was a big Star Trek fan, so I watched Star Trek all the time, or I love science fiction books, read all the Jules Verne's novels, and then you start seeing yourself in those characters' position. And before you know it, you make it come true one way or another. So this picture was taken actually as one of my all-hands meeting. As you all probably know, I'm an entrepreneur. I run a few successful tech companies. But my life had taken a path into engineering and a career in engineering as an entrepreneur, and sort of this whole dream of going to space had, been put aside. But for me, it was a big part of who I was and who I am today. So I didn't want to forget about it. And my way of reminding myself every day that I have this thing that I still want to do was to have these little reminders all around me. And this was one way. I made the entire management team dress up in Star Wars costume, full Star Wars costume. And some of them didn't appreciate it, but I can tell you all the employees truly loved it. And I had all the conference rooms named after, stars and galaxies, and everything around me reminded me that I need to find a way to make that dream come true. So when I was growing up watching Star Trek, I imagined by the time I will be an adult, there will be a Starship Federation, and I could go to Starfleet Academy and become a science officer, maybe Mrs. Spock on board Starship Enterprise, and travel the entire universe. And of course, as you know, I grew up and there was no Starship Federation, there was no Starfleet Academy. So when I looked around, I saw that since the beginning of the space program, a lot of promises were made. We would have hotels on the moon, we would have, Panam actually sold tickets for people to go to space. And we had all these dreams that none of them materialized. So as an engineer, I liked solving problems. So this was a problem, but a problem that for 50 years had not been solved properly. So we had to look at it differently. How can we solve this problem? And I had the fortune of coming across an amazing guy, a great friend of mine, Peter Diamandis. You may have heard his name a few times today mentioned. He's a great author. He wrote the book about Abundance and Bold that has become a smash hit right now. And he had this idea. He's also a big space fan. So he had this idea of maybe a prize can solve this problem. So he had this notion of doing a $10 million prize modeled after the Ortiz Prize, which kick-started the whole aviation industry. But unfortunately, anyone he talked to told him he's crazy. You're going to build what in garages? Starship? You're going to go to space? Are you crazy? Only governments can do that. Well, nobody believes him. So he heard about me and had read in one of the interviews I had done with Forbes that I wanted to go to space. So he made it his mission to meet with me and tell me about his vision of this prize. And immediately I saw this would be the best possible solution to solve this problem. Because you don't even pay if they don't build the spaceship. It's a prize. It's a prize that's paid after you do it. And it was meant to become, actually the way it was designed, it was meant to become an actual business, an industry afterwards. So it wasn't a one-off thing. So I figured that if I sponsored this prize, not only I can go to space, but all the people sitting in this room and in other rooms all over the world who want to go to space, they can do it too. Well, the prize was launched. It was very successful. It was won in 2004. We had 11 teams from 7 countries participating. And the winning company was Scales Composite. The design was built by Bert Rutan, an amazing aerospace engineer genius, and funded by Paul Allen. $100 million was spent to win a $10 million prize. All sorts of different designs. And what was very unique about it was the fact that even after the prize was won, many of those companies continued to build what they were building. And all the regulatory changes and the education we did as part of this prize, it actually kick-started a whole new industry, a $100 billion industry that's growing and thriving. And you've heard about SpaceX as one of the most famous companies that has come around. Elon Musk at the helm of this company, building spaceships for NASA now, and hopefully in 2018 actually carrying people to the space station. They've already carried cargo. You have Jeff Bezos, you have many geniuses and entrepreneurs building spaceships now to go to space. So we figured this prize model works, and by the way, this is the Spaceship One. This is the actual winning spaceship who won the prize, and it's in Air and Space Museum. So if you're ever in Washington, D.C., please go visit. So we saw this model of competition works, and what's unique about it is the X Prize competition only awards after you demonstrate you can do something. It's not an award for something you accomplished in the past, and it's not for science fiction type designs on paper. You have to actually demonstrate you can do what you claim to do. So we've gone into different areas now. We have prizes in healthcare. We have Qualcomm Tricorder X Prize. You can tell we're all Trekkies at X Prize. So this is the device that you can actually use to diagnose, a handheld mobile device. You can diagnose 100 diseases better than 10 board-certified physicians. We had many people competed. We have actually 10 finalists, and end of the year we're going to announce the winner. We have an education prize for, again, a mobile device that can teach a young child to read, write, and do arithmetic without the help of a teacher. And we have energy prizes. We announced the Carbon X Prize. We announced an adult literacy prize. We have a personal transporter prize coming up. So we have many prizes announced and in design. They're all global prizes. So if you know people who are interested, they don't even have to be experts in this field. They can all participate and win millions of dollars. So I told you I can tell you about the future. So I'm going to try to tell you my vision of the future. As someone who's involved with space, it will definitely involve space, you will see that. But also a little bit of technology, because that's the field that I spend most of my time in. So one thing that I can tell you about future is that, as you heard today from many of the speakers, the future is very unpredictable. Everything's changing so rapidly that it's truly hard to predict the future. But there are few things that are, common across all these technologies that are moving at a rapid pace. So at least it can help us prepare to look in the right direction. So one of those technologies that's growing at an exponential rate, and it will have an absolute impact on every single industry, is the additive manufacturing and 3D printing. And you can see here, this is just an example of a fashion show that was all done with clothing made of 3D material, 3D printed designs. And I love this concept because I travel a lot, and I hate suitcases, and they always lose my suitcase. So I can't wait for the day I'll go to the hotel room, I walk in, I punch in a card, everything that I needed is already programmed, they had printed it, it's in my room, and by the time I leave, I just dump it into a recycling bin, and off I go to the next destination. That would be fantastic. Of course, we have 3D printers that will help us with food and other material. We have 3D printers that already we're working on to print organs from your own genomics material, so you will have a lot more chances of surviving a disease that requires organ transplants. And of course, as I promised you, space is a big part of it. So one of the Singularity University team came up with a 3D printer for space. And why that is important is because today one of the biggest issues we have, we carry everything up to space station with us, and that has a lot of cost. But with a printer on board, now we can print whatever we need. So if we forgot something or something breaks, we don't have to wait for the next shipment to come up. We can actually print them on the station. And there are already 2 printers on board the space station today. The future will also definitely be augmented. You saw some of the VR the shows that are out there, and you've heard about Magic Leap from Brad, and you saw Google Glasses in the past. So we will have a lot more information at our fingertips, real time, as we do things. But not only that, with the advancement in robotics and AI, we will have robots and these technologies help us do things that we cannot do, maybe going beyond our own human strength, allowing us to live more independent lives and allow us to address a lot of the disabilities that we have people facing. Of course, again, this type of technology has already made it to space station. Robotics has been a big part of the space program from the start, and it's now playing even a bigger role. So this is Robonaut 2 on board space station, as you can see with one of the astronauts. Space also will be a big part of our future. As our population grows, just using resources on our planet will not be sufficient for us to address our needs. We have to look outside to be able to find these resources. Space tourism, or what people call space tourism, is just the beginning. And what it does is a tangible first use of the technology. But the point is for us to reduce the cost of access to space. So then we open it up for people to use their imagination and creativity to create a lot of new things. Just like, you know, the early days of internet, a lot of us wondered, what is internet? What are we going to do with it? But when it became available, accessible, and easy to use, people started getting very creative about how they use it. And now we have all these ecosystems of apps, the cloud computing, all of this was as a result of just opening up that frontier. So, you know, 20, 30 years from now, if we can reduce the cost of access to space, only, you know, nobody sitting in this room can even predict what's going to happen. You already may have seen announcements about a company called Planetary Resources, who's going to mine the asteroid. What's unique about this company is not just only the investors in this company who are very respected people investing in a company that only a few years ago would have been called a hack or a crazy idea, but also because they launched the first crowdsourced telescope that will go and actually hunt and find these asteroids. Another technology that I'm particularly very excited about is space-powered solar satellites. We've been using solar energy in space from the beginning of the space program. And you know, we can actually access and harvest this energy all the time in space and beam it to a station here on Earth that can distribute it locally to and address a lot of our energy needs a lot easier and cheaper, only if we can get the cost of access to space reduced. There's also possibility for manufacturing in space. Imagine being able to manufacture new medicine, new material, and be able to actually take some of the problems we have with the energy use and waste up in space where it won't harm our planet as much. Of course, ultimately, everyone wants to live in space. I'm one of those people who would love to go live in space. I think we will probably have first habitation on the moon to prepare us for a trip to Mars, and then eventually, hopefully, a place on Mars. If Elon can have his way, we'll inhabit Mars very soon. But as a technologist, what's also very exciting to me is the amount of power we have as individuals today. This is unprecedented. Never before, as an individual, we could make so much difference. And when you look at it, you know, this is an example of, I actually remember this type of cell phones, and people had it in their cars and carried it around. But today, we have handheld devices that have a computing power that is more than all the computing power that NASA had when they put a man on the moon. Can you imagine? One of your devices has more computing power than all the computers NASA had at that time. And that's amazing to me. Not only that, it also has a camera, it has a gyroscope, accelerometer, all sorts of different technologies and sensors that, you know, before we would not even imagine it's possible or affordable to have it in our hand. So that gives you a lot of individual power. On top of that, nowadays, you know, you heard about some of the services that Turkcell is providing. Everything is available as a service. So if you have an idea and you want to build it, you want to do something about it, you don't need a lot of infrastructure to do it. You can actually just use things as you need and create whatever you have in your mind. If you need money for it, there's crowdfunding. You can go out there and find like-minded people who will be able to pitch in and make your dream come true for you. And of course, as you heard, you can't hire the best people on the planet in your company, but you can get access to a fraction of their time as you need it. And then you will have the best minds in the world working for you and building this. So all of this inspired me as someone who's, again, in the technology business to see what I can do as an individual. I had been supporting social entrepreneurs for a long time, and I decided, why not become one? So what I had built in Prodia and my company was a technology for Internet of Things. But when I looked at it, I saw that I can use the same technology to bring health, education, government services to the rural masses around the world. So today you heard Brad talks about the 4.5 billion that are not connected and what it could mean to them. I've seen how technology can empower people and bring a lot of goodness to their lives. And when you look at it, connectivity is just one piece of the puzzle. There are other pieces that we need to solve in order to bridge that gap. And that's what we address. When we looked at it, there are people, most of these 4.5 billion are people who are illiterate. They live in very remote areas. They don't know how to use the technology. They have actually technology phobia. They don't even know how the internet will help them or why they would need internet. So we're using our technology to take all of that, all the relevant, important things for them and make it accessible on a screen they have already in their home, which is a TV, making it into a very interactive screen for them that they can use a remote control. And we started already deployment in Rajasthan. We're going to be in 100,000 homes by the end of the year and hope to grow it to other states and globally soon after that. So everything that I told you, it means that our future is not predictable, but it is what we will imagine it to be. It is what we will use these technologies to do. Technology is just a tool. How we use this technology is important, and it will shape our future. So it's important when we think about these things, think about what we want to do as individuals with lots of power in the palm of our hand, to not let our fears determine what we would do, but allow our hope and our optimism help us design the future we want to live in. Before I show you a video and walk you through my journey on the International Space Station, I also want to share with you one of my absolute favorite poems, and I hope you will like it also. It's a poem by Karen Raven, and the poem goes, "Only as high as I reach can I grow. Only as far as I seek can I go. Only as deep as I see, only as deep as I look can I see. Only as much as I dream can I do." So I do encourage all of you, with all the power and amazing technology and intellect you have, to dream big, because your dreams will be shaping our future. And with that, I will ask someone back there maybe to start the video for me. I think we have time for some questions. Anyone brave enough to raise their hand and ask the first question? Yes, the brave man right there. You want my badge? I will be happy to send it to you. Yes, you're great here. Hold on, I think someone's bringing your mic. So I heard that how it impacted something, but I didn't. Go.
What if this journey affected on your psychology? Because you told us You explained us the technical processes, what did happen to you, or which physical or some health processes. But I wonder, because I study sociology, so I wonder the psychological processes and how this affects you. Thank you.
Sure. So there are two parts to your question, the effects psychologically and physically. So physically, few things gets affected. One is your vestibular system the first few days is out of whack, so you feel motion sickness, but it goes away after a few days. I grew 2 inches taller because your spine stretches. That puts some pressure on your lower back. And but also when you come, after a few days you're okay, and then when you come back, of course, you go back to your normal height, which I regretted. But the other thing that happens is a lot of the fluid in your body shifts up because, you know, the system that pumps the blood and everything doesn't work the same way when you're in microgravity. So your face is puffier, you have sinus pressure the first few days. But also you start adjusting. So one amazing thing is our body is very adaptable to the environment. So you see whatever it is, after a few days you start adapting. But it also means that you get weak, so you have muscle atrophy and bone loss when you spend time in space. So you have to exercise 2 hours a day at minimum to maintain your strength. Psychologically, each person experiences different things, but some common things that I believe most of the astronauts feel is it gives you a new perspective on life and on the world you live in. It makes you humble because you truly see how big the universe is. You know it intuitively, you read about it, but once you're in space, you actually see it, feel it much stronger. And that humbles you. At the same time, for me, it also made all the problems shrink. Because all the problems that I thought were so big shrinks, then I felt empowered. And also, the little things didn't matter anymore. I mean, all the crazy things we fight over and consume our time with becomes, you know, insignificant and unimportant. So it has made me, I think, a much calmer person. In business and everything I do, I have this global view in mind now. So any project that I do it if it has a global impact. So all of these are some of the changes that happened to me personally. Question back there? There's a mic behind you, sorry.
If you have a chance, can you try it again?
If I have a chance, I will go right now.
Really?
I love that. And I would go live in space.
And what are you thinking about the movies about the space, for example, gravity?
So,
and are they similar, your experience?
So gravity actually was done with a lot of footage from NASA and help from NASA, so it was very accurate in terms of the way you float in space and the space station itself. I was actually watching the movie and I'm like, oh, that's where I slept and that's where I did this. So it was very, the storyline had lots of holes, so the storyline needed help, but other than that, very accurate. Martian I love, and I was thinking, oh, I wish I was the one stuck on Mars. And Interstellar was also very interesting. I mean, a lot more, you know, science fiction, but interesting, and I like that too.
One more question. How many days one human can stay in space or spaceship?
So when you're in space, you're not protected by the atmosphere, so you get the equivalent of 1 X-ray a day of radiation. So right now, the estimate is that you know, you don't want to spend more than a year in space. That's why Scott Kelly's mission was for 1 year. But you know, that we may be able to push that frontier, you know, forward. Also, they're looking at other ways of shielding the space station more from radiation. So those are some of the things we need to think about when we want to go to Mars, because it will take a few years to get there and come back.
Okay, thank you.
I saw a hand right there. The brave ladies are asking all the questions.
Experience as this really positive, amazing experience, but there must be some difficulties to it. I'm wondering what was the hardest or maybe the most painful, what was the most negative thing in your trip?
So So for most part, everything was just incredible and amazing, and I loved every little bit of it. Even when it was difficult, I loved it. Because I was challenging myself and pushing myself. There was one particular training that I really didn't like, and it was called the spinning chair, and it's designed to make you sick and to strengthen your vestibular system. So you basically sit in a chair and you go round and round for 10 minutes, and you have to, basically put your head back and forth and sideways to really make you dizzy. So I didn't like that at all, but I had to do it. The other thing was hard, to be honest with you. When I went to Moscow to train, when I arrived for the first set of tests that they would do to accept you into the program, my husband was with me. And when I arrived, this big general with like a big hat was standing there, and he wouldn't even talk to me. He kept talking to my husband, and my husband told me, "I'm not going, she's going, you need to talk to her." It's like, "No, you need to go, it's so good, you have to." I said, no, I'm not crazy enough. She's the crazy one who wants to go. You have to talk to her. So they really didn't want me in the program. They did everything possible to disqualify me. And I was determined that I'm there and there is no way I'm going back home. So it was hard to get them at the beginning to accept me and help me through. But after the first 2 months, and this has happened to me as a CEO in a tech world, the same thing. I changed their mind. They saw my genuine interest, they saw how hard I was working, and I was excelling at things that I was doing, so they really became my friend. Now they're my buddies. I go there, I go see them, and it's completely changed. And there are now 2 cosmonauts, women cosmonauts, that have entered the program after I finished my training there, so it's great to see that big change. As you know, the first woman who went to space was a Russian. Valentina Tereshkova, so I wanted to see that tradition continue. Yes.
Thank you for your presentation. It was really amazing. I want to learn what's your next dream.
So my next dream may not be as exciting or as grandiose to everyone, but to me, I think it's actually more challenging. And what I've seen is that, the world is at this, balancing point, and the balance can go either way. And it's important who makes the decisions and which way this balance will tip. So I've sort of lost hope in adults, and I believe in the power of the young people because they're connected more, and the barriers and borders doesn't mean much to them. They're more inclined to work together and collaborate and create a peaceful world for all of them. So I'm hoping to establish a way for young people to be a bigger part of policy making and be able to get their voices heard and create the future that they would live in versus, us deciding for them and, creating a world that they probably wouldn't want to live in. Very good. You have one last question right in front.
What kind of mandatory requirements or prerequisites are there for being able to accept that role?
So the requirement for an orbital flight, which is what I did, is to be very healthy because you don't have doctors up there. And you need to make sure that you're very healthy, and you don't need to be strong because everything is weightless. So I was like Hercules, I could lift anything I wanted. But you have to have good stamina because it also takes a lot out of you when you want to do tasks. And those are pretty much the only prerequisites. You have to have a good heart condition, and even if your eyesight is not good now, you can wear glasses. If you have LASIK surgery, however, because the way the form of your cornea changes, you will have vision problems. So if you had LASIK surgery, you can't go to space. But those are the only requirements. Suborbital flights, really you don't need a lot of training, and you don't need to be as tip-top shape to do it. because it's a very short flight. You basically spend 5 minutes in space. So the spaceship design, Virgin Galactic, Richard Branson has bought the design now, and they've turned it into a commercial passenger program, which a lot of people are planning to go. So for that, you don't need a lot of qualification.
Understood. Thanks a lot for this fantastic presentation. I'm here. Not from space. It was an amazing story. Thank you for being part of this event and sharing such an amazing experience. We have these two little babies.
Oh my God!
Their imaginations also.
Are you going to go to space? Yes. Oh,
Thank you.
Ben de gideceğim.
our first mark.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.